thank you for a thunderous round of applause. So we are late, in case you're wondering where are these guys. Because, you see, here's the thing. When you come in person, there's about 40, 50 people here tonight. When you come in person, the whole point is that you connect with people that you never know. I mean, we've had over 10,000 people in the audience over the years, and so many people have connected, made new businesses. Some have made babies. I'm not saying that anymore. No pressure, anyone who's here. But it's the truth. But again, like in person is so powerful. So we're late tonight because we're doing an introduction game where we get to know each other, and then later on we can all have a chat and discuss and network effectively. So my apologies, but hey, sorry, not sorry. Okay, so tonight is about Bali Tourism and Investment Chamber. So if you were here on Thursday of last week, for the first time we had a beautiful interaction between, so we had government ministers from Jakarta and regional, also entrepreneurs and investors based here in Bali and beyond. 325 people came. Now, as Terry, one of our guests, will speak into shortly, it was one of those moments where government were able to be just a little bit vulnerable and realize, that we can solve these challenges together. And that for everyone who was there was palpable, meaning you could really feel it, that it was an environment of how do we support each other? How do we support Bali in moving forward? And how do we, as foreigners and locals, support that whole ecosystem going forward? So let's get started. So as I mentioned, following Thursday's pioneering Bali Investment Policy Outlook at the Trans Resort Bali that united 325 public-private sector leaders, this week's SpeakuP Monday, that's this, what you're watching now, we have a deeper, more intimate look into the role of Bali Tourism and Investment Chamber. So what actually is it? Its purpose, its mission, and why strengthening the bridge between national, regional, local government with entrepreneurs and investors is crucial for Bali's future. Why BTIC matters now. So clarity on regulations, responsible investment, cultural preservation, and long-term sustainability. And obviously how you, as the audience here or those who are watching online from Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, how you can contribute. Business owners, entrepreneurs, investors, and community leaders, we can all play a role, and we must play a role. So tonight I'll introduce them, and then we'll get into the Q&A. So starting from my left, Terry Holt Nielsen, entrepreneur, investor, legal advisor, sustainability advocate, and co-founder and managing partner of Seven Stones Indonesia. Now, one of his superpowers, which I believe and I've seen so often, is that he has this ability through his work with government over many, many years, that's regional, local, and national, is to create a key overview of the investment and regulatory environment here in Bali and Indonesia at large, actually. Then next, we have Elvira Wason, sustainability advocate, entrepreneur, author and trainer, co-founder of Bye Bye Plastic Bags, and consultant with EarthCheck, which is the world's leading sustainability certification for hospitality and tourism. Now, you would have known that maybe a few weeks ago, a little bit longer, we interviewed Elvira's daughter, well, one of them. So most of you would know about Melati Wason, who is a powerful lady. I get goosebumps every time I talk about her. Just an absolute gun for Bali and for change makers around the world. So Youthtopia, which is empowering young change makers to take flight, is her current initiative. Now, she's spoken on stages at the UN, with President Obama and with so many other international dignitaries and huge events around the world, is a true testament to Bali and what we can do together. Now, my name is Robert Ian Bonnick, growth strategist, advisor, and moderator, founder of PT Career Life Group, which is a gateway to Indonesia for business. And my key business, strength of difference is business integration and bringing everyone to the table. So community building, developing, and so on. As a founder of SpeakuP Monday, which is Indonesia's #1 entrepreneurship and social impact talk show, we've just completed 500 episodes. Round of applause. Woo! Yes. So this is episode number 501. We've been endorsed by Forbes Business Council, by the Founder Institute Bali, by Startup Grind Bali, by the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy here in Indonesia, and awarded a #1 changemaker in Bali, a Nomad Social Fund, and a top 10 motivational speaker in Southeast Asia by CEO Insights Asia. Sorry. That was a long introduction, I know. So thank you for being part of this. Remember, this is a Q&A. So we'll start off with some questions here for both Terry and Elvira, and then we'll also go to your questions as well. So if you do have questions, please feel free to either write them down or put them in your mind, because you will have an opportunity to ask those questions. So let's begin by welcoming our guest and kind of reviewing this Bali Policy Outlook that happened at the Trans Resort on Thursday, the 13th of November. That, again, was very well received, and you know, it was the first time it's been done here in a public forum in Indonesia. So look, starting with you, Terry, if I can go from left to right, Elvira, you know, what was your hope for the event, and what did you see or feel from the event which gives you, you know, like a smile on your face that we achieved the mission? Not a leading question at all to begin with.
Well, the comment from the guy in the back made me smile before, but I think it's something that a lot of us has talked about for a long time, opportunities like this to talk to the government, and there's a story on how it all came to be. I don't know, the energy of Bali, whatever it was that brought it all together, and as we said in the event too, Ibu Kiki from the Ministry of Tourism has been a tremendous driving force, being supervised by the guy in the back there. He's stage shy, but he should take a lot of honor for this too. To me, the turnout was one thing that was very impressive. And I guess the other thing from the audience was the hunger for information and correct information, which we know is a big challenge for investment climate in Bali. But what really I took back was when I looked at our three speakers from the government, which was Ibu Kiki from the Ministry of Tourism, Pa Bagus from BKPM, and then Pa Sukra from the provincial BKPM office. You could see they talked among each other, and there was other government officials really enjoying the moment. And in the past, it's been a very, when you do events, chambers in Jakarta, whatever, it's very cosmetic and not very deep. But in this case, they were on stage and they were, I used the word vulnerable. They were accepting the challenges, and they were saying, help us help you to figure out the challenges that we have and how we can move forward. And I think that I've been in Indonesia for a very, very long time. And it's the first time I've seen a government being that proactive. And what you already said, it's something that we must take responsibility towards and embrace and try to move forward in a good way for all of us.
You know, I mean, just for the people who were not there, so Ibu Rizki Handayani Mustafa, the Deputy for Industry and Investment under the Ministry of Tourism, Bapak Bagus Haryadi, Senior Investment Management Specialist for the Ministry of Investment, that's Indonesia's Investment Coordinating Board, that's BKPM, and then Bapak Iketut Sukra Negara, Head of One Stop Integrated Investment Services Bali office. So that these were some of our dignitaries present. So for the people that missed it, Terry, and I'll ask you the same in a minute, Elvira. So what were probably the one or two takeaways that you feel for foreign investors and local that are looking at coming to a place like Bali to invest? What do you think was really laid out clearly by our special guests?
I think this was focused mainly towards two new regulations. One is what we call the PP28, that is put together by BKPM central government, and the other one is the ministerial regulation from the Ministry of Tourism, which in a nutshell, I guess both of those regulations is looking at how we can make it easier for foreigners to do business in Bali, to get more clarity. But at the same time, like I said, in that meeting and that gathering, there was also issues and challenges that was exposed, and I think the government appreciate and take back and want us to follow up with, so they can go back to their respective ministries. I think what we see, like in the past with the Ministry of Tourism, it's been a very cosmetic ministry in the sense that they've Indonesia promoted Bali, but now they're tasked with actually putting the finger on the pulse, what's going on, reporting back directly to the minister and the president, and then the instructions comes from there to the other ministries like BKPM, immigration and so on what needs to happen, and the cross-ministry dialogue. So they have a very different role that I've again never seen before until now.
And as you mentioned before, what you didn't mention was that one of your daughters was a putri in Indonesia. So we have Elvira's daughter, who's a change maker leading the world. Terrier's daughter, who's a putri in Indonesia. No pressure on my daughters at all, but that's fine. So look, what was also present is that we had Sophie Digby, who's not here tonight, do an introduction to Bali Cultural Heritage Foundation. And Elvira, who's sitting next to me now, how sustainable investment, or what sustainable investment looks like. And I think one of the comments that we received was, how well-rounded it was, because again, we talk about Bali, but we also speak about, as let's look at the foreign investors for this particular part of this conversation. What is it that we can do, right, to integrate ourselves into Bali, not the other way around? So what is it we can do from a philosophical, actual, understanding things like, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity and diversity, the motto of Indonesia, understanding Gotong Royong, community coming together to solve a challenge faced by the community. And here in Bali, understanding Tri Hita Karana, 3 roads to prosperity, happiness, which again is about the relationship of human to God, human to nature, and human to human, prosperity, dignity. So we as foreigners have this responsibility to know what these things mean. And when we come here to think about what is it that we can contribute, as well as making money and all the rest of that, which is necessary in business, but there's a contributive aspect that we need to be and keep firmly in mind and actually act upon, right? So then, Elvira, what I loved, about your presentation, again, what sustainable investment looks like here in Bali and Indonesia at large, and again, your history and your experience is it's clearly in that area, right? But what is it, if there are 2 or 3 key elements for those people that weren't there on that Thursday that you'd like to bring again, to reiterate to the audience here and to those watching online, what would those 2 or 3 points be?
Okay, thank you very much, Robert. I think what my task is within the Bali Tourism Investment Chamber is to keep everybody a little bit on track about what it really means to invest sustainable in an island where the actual stakeholders are rivers, rice fields, mountains, beaches and people. And too often in recent years, I think we all can agree, we see too many investments that are disconnected from that. And maybe that is because in general, globally, we have been disconnected from nature. In general speaking, we are not connected with nature anymore. Bali brings that back, but my task and my focus is really to ensure that you invest sustainable. And the second thing, how you can do that, is simply by making nature one of your stakeholders. I really, really would like to see that just like Robert says, there's no problem with making profit and have a return of investment. That's what I often hear is the biggest concern, the biggest reason of investment. You come, you take, you leave. That's not what Bali is about. You cannot come and take and leave. Yeah, but making nature a real stakeholder and make lots of profit. The problem is that too often the profit goes only to a few shareholders. And nature should be one of them. Then it also becomes an asset with opportunities instead of a limitation and cost. Yeah, because as all as we sit here, you can invest whatever you want. You can invest however you like. But if we're not more respectful to the limitations of Mother Earth, that even here in Bali there are limitations, and that always comes back to the 3 pillars that are making sure that Bali has its well-being, and that is water, waste and energy. So if we're not protecting those and not even touching the infrastructure, but waste, water and energy are your best friends to make nature a stakeholder that could be a really asset for investments. And that is my task, and I keep on everybody slamming about it until you do. Thank you.
You know, one of the things which I'm smiling because I know what comes next, but one of the things that I was mentioning on Thursday is that you don't mess with mum. Right? Now we know this to be true. Right? If you're a mum, you can just nod your head because you know it's true. If you're a fellow, a male, you can also nod yourself because you also know it's true, right? You don't mess with mum. And I mean, and I think I was saying this to Ibu Kiki as well when she came on, which I thought was quite interesting. But look, just to give you a practical way of doing this, right? And I brought this example up as well, and some of you have heard this, some of you haven't. But for those of you who are new to this, or old to this, it's a really good framework. So we mentioned about Talihita Karana before, 3 roads to prosperity, happiness, and so on, harmony. One way which, I take clients through as a gateway to Indonesia is literally saying like this, right? So what is the impact of your business project initiative on top of the triangle, human to God? So culture, customs, traditions, religion. So what are you doing in your business to honor that? Bali has 5 that predominate, right? Each have their own respect and place on the calendar, right? And are respected fully. So what are you doing as a business owner or a founder or someone sitting on a board? What are you doing to impact that? Are you ensuring that ceremonies happen in your property every single day? Are you ensuring that of the calendar, the Balinese calendar is being honored and respected? It's not about pointing a finger and saying, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this right. It's Canggu moment, right? How do we go from wherever we are to the next level? Right? If we're on a 1, how do we get to a 2? If we're a 6 out of 10, how do we get to a 7? Now, the other one over here, human to the environment. What is it that you're doing here? One client, they're creating a pyrolysis plant, which again turns plastic into oil. So it's utilizing the oil from that local area and turning it back into oil. Now that business will become run by Balinese, by the local village itself, right? For example, that's over here in environment. When it comes over to here, human to human prosperity and dignity, what are you doing there? One client recently was a big technology event here in Bali. Through a bit of lobbying, be honest, they provided 40 to 60 free tickets for university students, college and university students here in Bali to attend that event, which was, they had the best speakers in the world around AI. Right, and technology. So then, and this is not only students, but also the lecturers as well. right? So again, think about this. When you come to Bali, how are you in harmony with Bali? You've had a great example that Elvira, Sophie's not here to talk about the Cultural Foundation, but again, these are very practical ways that you can ensure you're in harmony with Bali, right? And again, we have a few friends here, Vigor and a few others, and so on. You probably know who he is. If you don't, you will. When it comes to your design, over here we have 3 Crowns property. So if you look at their website and their properties, right, beautiful luxury properties, but in harmony with Bali. The way it's been designed, look and feel. And as Christian, a property analyst over here, said some weeks back, is that for ROI in property, if your property has this essence of Bali in it, the chances are it will maintain more value. So your ROI will be greater. Right. So again, these are some of the practical ways in which, as foreign investors, talking to foreign investors right now, but also local, can help to be in harmony with Bali and support everything that we're talking about now, tonight, and probably we'll talk about in the future. But just changing gear a little bit more now. So back to you, Terrier. So when it comes to Bali looking forwards, so you've mentioned a few of the challenges I think which Bali faces. If you haven't, feel free to mention a few more. But what is it in terms of the future that you would like to see BTIC? How does it fill that gap between government, investors, and entrepreneurs? What would you say?
I think we have already stated and said that we really want to focus on legislation and regulations. So it's kind of a two-stream way, in the sense that when the government issues new regulation or they have confusion in the understanding of regulations, then we can help to, I guess, translate and get that out to the larger foreign community, and at the same time become a parameter of what is the truth, because there's an awful lot of confusion out there. But the government has also specifically said that they want feedback towards these regulations, and with that comes also a responsibility towards us. So we do give feedback and we do give input in a sensible way to the government on what may or may not need to change. And I think one of the biggest problems we see is the lack of communication between different ministries. And I think Ibu Kiki addressed that when we met too, that she will introduce us into these ministries, but we need to sort of help with that coordination and get a healthier, complete structure to this. I think the biggest challenge that we're going to see is the vision and maybe the difference between where the different stakeholders, and Elvira represents a few of them that doesn't have a voice, but there is many that has a voice, and possibly the conflicts or differences that we see in what the central government expects and what the provincial government expects, and how that is taken care of. And I guess that leads to what you keep bringing up over and over in a good way with the Trihita Karana and the value of Bali. There are talks in some groups about at some stage the government is going to allow us all to smoke weed in Bali, and obviously we appreciate that, but there's even talks about casinos and a path that, to me, go and do that in Lombok, go and do that in Flores, go and do that somewhere that doesn't have the culture and depth that Bali has. I'm going to try to find a book that a professor wrote about Trihita Karana. His name is Wayan Mertasuteja, and he takes that concept into much more detail, in particular when you talk about Trihita Karana, and one of those pillars, like the human-to-human relationship, is reflected in the Indonesian constitution known as Pancasila, so the 5 pillars. But there is also a Pancawana, which is nature and how you deal with the 5 pillars of nature, and there's another one, Pancamanu, who governs your relationship to the divine. And I think that's why the old ladies and I would say gentlemen, but I don't see myself as a gentleman, men sits here, because and you have Detlef and others who understands what that means. The Bali that we came to see many years ago, and his change is inevitable, and it must happen, but what we see right now is absolutely not good, and I think it's only a matter of time before Bali then is a nice history. So to me, the mission of how we can embrace those values and push for that to be the attraction and energy of Bali into the future. I lived in Canggu for 20 years when there was only rice fields, and started the devastation probably with what we see today, but I moved up in the mountains. But I was driving through almost all of the mountains on Sunday, and the real Bali is still there. It's only certain areas here that is messed up, but how do we make sure that it actually stays that way and get all the stakeholders on board, the farmers and the less fortunate, not in a way of not being rich and famous, they may not even want that, but how we can embrace that larger community into a better Bali into the future.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, it's also 2025, right? So all the alternatives for all the problems that we have are here. Why are we building with cement? All those cement one-room apartments that they call villas, why is that happening? All the solutions, all the alternatives are here. It is just a change in mindset and investment that we need to look at. And we know that that is very hard. There's nothing as difficult as changing the mindset. And especially if you come with a mindset that created those problems in the first place. We're not going to solve anything with the same mindset or the same institutions or the same regulations or investment conditions as what created them. So if you want to invest in Bali, you have to be ready and you have to be prepared to commit to that change. All the alternatives are there. So it's just your choice, and that's what we're waiting for. And I think at the chamber, at the Bali Tourism and Investment Chamber, we are very excited to, for the first time, connect all those units. So there is Terje with all his knowledge and all his facts and numbers about all the regulations and all the policy. Yeah, there's Sophie, who has this deep, deep, deep love and passion to preserve anything that is culture. Yeah, and there's me, who only wants to see sustainable good doers. Yeah, and Robert, who brings it all together in his beautiful, with his beautiful skill to connect people and to build a community. So it is a first that this is happening, and I think it's a good thing, and I think I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you all. It's it's an interesting one. A while ago, I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was you or me, I don't know. It could have been. It was this outside of Einstein, and you can't solve the same problem from the same place where it came from. It was this understanding of don't stress about things you can't control or have an impact into. So the good news about this is that we actually have the opportunity to have an impact. So it's something that we can't control, but something that we can impact in a powerful, positive way. Right? So again, I'm pointing over here, Bali Tourism and Investment Chamber, a bit of a plug. It probably won't be the last plug, let's be honest. But again, I think you've already heard enough already to know if it's something that you're interested in or not. What I would say is that Gotong Royong, right? The community comes together to solve a challenge faced by the community. So this is something which we would love you to share. Right? So if you're moved already by what this is, maybe you were there on Thursday, maybe you were not, maybe you know Terry already, maybe you know our sister Elvira or me, maybe you know us, maybe you know Sophie, maybe you know Robert sitting over here, and you know that it's time, right? You know that it's time that stop talking and actually take action, and this is taking action, right? So please feel free to pass it on to other people as well. Now, in about 4 or 5 minutes, we're going to go to questions, right? Because what we love about this is that you're all here, 30, 40, 50 people, whatever the number, and we love it to be led by you. One thing which I would say, though, when asking questions is, number one, raise your hand so we know you want to ask a question. That's helpful. Number two is, if you want to plug yourself, your company, by all means you can. You've come here, it's the least that we can do. Right? So, for example, my name is Rob, my company is X, but then please get straight to your question. All right, as opposed to a long kind of preamble and story. This we don't need, because if we can get straight to the question, then we can get more questions, more answers, more value for you. All right, so just keep that in mind as shortly we're going to be coming to questions. So, okay, so Elvira. So I've started with Terry a couple of times. I think it's time I start with you.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So look, I think we've spoken a little bit about some of the challenges facing Bali.
Yeah.
I think we've spoken a little bit about, that gap between national, regional, and local government and what we can do about it. I think we've spoken a little bit about the future and what or how people can get involved. Right? So maybe my question to you is that, is there anything missing from what I've just said, in your opinion? And if so, what would that be?
Looking at the future, what I see is that villas that are being built and all have a grey water system to reuse the water. I see restaurants that separate their waste at source. I see lots of beautiful things happening that are easy to do. What we're missing is, I think, two things. And that is, one, I'm a big believer in rewarding for the good doers. Yeah, so if you are an investor and you really have a good sustainable plan and you do the right thing, you should be awarded. You should have a tax holiday for 1, 2, 3 years. You should be on you should have a short track to get your permits, your licenses, or whatever, because that's what you should receive if you're doing good. So others can follow. That's the first thing. The second thing that I see missing is a island-wide recognized accreditation system, again, that evaluates the properties, the restaurants, the hotels, anything that has a sustainable operation on their how far you are on that sustainability journey, and have an accreditation that at least is also value, because it is being checked every year. Independent. That is what we're missing. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. There's probably two things that I have left. One is, and we spoke about it on Thursday as well, and I kind of put my hand up for this one. Hopefully not anymore. Ego.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it was your daughter. Is it an ego system or an ecosystem? Again, that one getting more goosebumps. All right? Is it an ego system or an ecosystem? What is it that you want to see? Because again, we have the opportunity to become contributors to what that looks like. We already are by what we're doing, how we move, how we operate, who we involve, how we negotiate, all of these things. So one is that. The other thing I wanted to bring up was that, what I also liked about Thursday was an opportunity to bring progressive ideas to the feet, not the feet, to the ears and minds and hearts of government. Right? So what Elvira was saying, and thank you for responding to that question about what's missing. And again, ego is, there's nothing missing, right? You get the difference? Eco is, well, actually, there's a few things missing. And you might want to think about this, and this, right? So ecosystem. So we had some great opportunities from the audience to give their ideas, and again, the accreditation system was one of them, and there were quite a few others actually. And again, that's what, another plug, Bali Tourism and Investment Chamber does. It collects it accepts these progressive ideas for policy, right, with an opportunity to bring that to the ear, heart, and mind of government. Very powerful. So Terje, maybe the last question for you before we go to the audience would be, in terms of this progressive opportunity to create policy, is there anything that you're hearing that we haven't discussed already from the community through, again, Seven Stones has brought thousands of companies and so on into Indonesia over the years. Is there any progressive policies that you would like to see adopted by government in one shape or form, and what are they? Give us some examples.
I think we talked about it a little bit in the earlier part of this session, that the new government that was quite controversial, with Prabowo being elected a president about a year ago, has shown themselves as being tremendously proactive on all of these aspects that in the past may not have been a top priority from the Indonesian government. Like, you may or may not have seen now, the sort of waste to energy and waste solution is a massive focus, and the creation of Tanantara, which is the sovereign wealth fund of Indonesia, which is a thing that actually Prabowo's father, who was also a minister in former governments, gave birth to way back. So there is a very big change, and it, I guess, in many aspects needs to be seen whether it is being implemented. But so far, the mindset has kind of changed from, you're a foreigner and here's a stick, we're going to beat you with it if you don't comply with the regulation, to say, if you do, and if you contribute in a good way to our economical upbuild, including what Elvira talked about and yourself in terms of environment, we're going to give you incentives. We're going to give you tax incentives. We're going to give you other incentives, and that's a positive outcome and expectation that we've been waiting for. I get beaten up every now and then I've been positive for 30 years and I'm still positive, but I really see a change. But I think one of the things that I addressed in our meeting, and I also want to address here, is that most of us actually comes from quite sophisticated countries when it comes to waste management, renewable energy, and a proactive government. So we know all of this. But you can look yourself in the mirror or look at the person next to you and say, do we take the community responsibility here on implementing or making sure our project actually does that? Some do, but I think that's part of what BTIC also want to do, is to get a momentum where the whole community says, we need to take responsibility together with the government to change that, and it must happen now. If not, it's too late. One other thing that I may get in there, I often hear from foreigners that, the Balinese don't care. They do. And the problem that you see is just because in the environment that we as foreigners and investors has created, their culture don't fit. They don't know how to deal with waste. They don't know how to deal with anything because they've never seen it. It's just the last 15 to 20 years that this came to be. If you go out in the villages, you'll see they have their structure and systems on them. As I was just talking to Rob before this too, that before the event, I had a movie on that reflected and spoke about a documentary about a ceremony we did in 2006 called Madewes Raya, and it's going to be done again 2026. I can share more information about this, but the king that started that Warmadewa, which is seen as the kings of all kings, and all the royalties in Bali will trace back to this guy, was the first one on record having eco regulations. He had restrictions against, how to not chop down the forest, and he had rangers out to protect and make sure. 1,000 years ago, the regulations on Subak, rivers, all of it, it's all in their history. So it's something that I get goosebumps now. It's in their DNA. We just need to encourage that and say, this, you have this knowledge. Put it to play also in the mess that actually we have created, not the Balinese. There are questions and issues around government, corruption, and all of these aspects. But I think with that communal responsibility, we can come a long way.
Beautiful. Thank you. So about 30 seconds. So if you have a question, raise your hand. In that time that precedes that, there's two places that I want to mention. So in our 500th episode last week, Marlo Bandam was one of our guests. And Marlo, outside of the Bali 1928 archives, co-founder, is one of the advisors to Saka Museum, S-A-K-A, Saka Museum. It's in Ayana, and that's in Jimbaran. Wow. This is won international awards. I honestly, seriously suggest that everybody here goes and takes a look at that museum. It's beautiful, done in such an impeccable way, and it's it takes the key aspects of Balinese culture. Hopefully Elvira's going to stay with us. Key aspects of Balinese culture, from the subak through to Nyipi. It's phenomenal. So if you're interested to know more, that's one place I suggest you go. Now, brand new, it's not quite finished yet, but the soft opening was on the weekend. It's called Majapahit. So Majapahit is a museum in Tanalot, in Tabanan. Just opened, soft launch, getting more goosebumps, at the weekend. They're going to be on the show, the founders of it. So the father behind it is one of, I think he's known as being the largest collector of Indonesian antiquities in Indonesia. And I know his son, and great family, and this museum has been done also really well. So Majapahit, and it traces from Java, the creation of what we know today. So that's another one really worthwhile seeing when it opens to public. It might be open to public, but they hadn't quite finished, so let's see. But Majapahit and Saka Museum. Okay, questions. You've already spoken on the microphone, so you know how it works. Right, first one, Guzman, over here. Yeah, Mario, we got another mic. Great.
He's going to talk about his wife again.
Yeah. Oh, but by the way, if you do ask a question, you will be on camera. So if you don't want to be on camera, maybe save your question till afterwards. In the case of Robert Beard over there, just again, thanks, because Robert has been instrumental in the creation of Bali Tourism Investment Chamber. And so go to Instagram and you'll see the other founders, Terrier, obviously Elvira, Sophie, myself, and also the board behind it, right? That those who empower it, like Mark Reed over here, who you saw before, who kind of volunteered information about himself, and GeoNet, which is a company which he represents as well. And there's about 7 or 8 more, but it's growing. So perhaps if you're here and you feel a calling, maybe just reach out, right? Because again, this is something I know that Detlev's put his hand up as well. I know that there's some really great people here who've been doing some phenomenal things over years and really want to contribute to a heartfelt, soul-felt, but also business savvy initiative like this. So please don't be shy. Brother Mario, over to you.
Hi. So my name is Mario. I'm also been here in Bali since 2005. Well, it was quite clear how it worked. I was living in Kuta. Kuta was already very busy. I moved in Seminyak. Seminyak became super busy. I came here in Brau in 2009, was nobody. It became super busy. I ended up in 2010, 2011 buying lands in the mountains in Munduk. She mentioned before about the mountains as beautiful places. I must be honest, this pattern is happening over and over. So places that we see full of rice field, beautiful landscapes, soon will be taken over by investors, because at the end, I think who comes and invests, the main point will be money, right? And I think also that they will try to put here and there sustainability and trying to make it cute, so it feels like they will do something good, but in reality probably is just an excuse, right? It will be not relevant for the land or for whatever else. How we can actually make sure that the local landlord are aware about how they don't have to sell the land. For example, one of the things that I have in mind about North Bali is that whoever that comes there right now can buy the land and probably will have 40% about building percentage. In some cases I found out there was about 60, which is so not necessary. I think 10% is more than enough, since certificates are quite large up there. How can we educate the local landlords instead than selling the land? I'm talking not about local investors or me that I bought many years ago. I'm talking about Balinese first-hand landlords. Instead than selling their lands forever, because when it's gone, right? Then it's up to us. But we only care about the money. How can we help them understand that they can cooperate with investors? And instead of selling the land, they can put the land as an asset, and they can take the investor to do something more sustainable. Because I think in these days, sustainability and privacy is the real luxury. I think also COVID teaches us how with luxury we cannot do much when the world goes really bad. So
Mario,
sustainability,
right.
farming, livestock, and basically.
So Mario, I'm going to stop you there because you're my brother, and you know I love you. But we've got the question. Let them answer the question.
Yeah, one more question, very quick, super quick. We will have the chance to have an source of information, because for example I've been here a long time. I can kind of find out regulation, but for example my new friend here just arrived and want to invest, and it's basically a hell, because you know how a notary, a lawyer, they all come up with different news. So I really wish you can find a way in which we can click and find out the latest and all of that. I think
Thank you, my brother. Terry, we'll start with you.
I think in terms of the regulations, it becomes more and more transparent and more accessible online, and I can give anyone some web pages to look at in addition to government institutions. But for instance, like hukumonline.com, they have a lot of information in English and they constantly translate. It's very good. It's a subscription module, but that's where parts of my superpower comes to decipher what comes out and how it connects maybe with other regulations. The sadness of land being sold rather than kept for a generational game is something that we've all taken part in and maybe benefited from. But one of the positive things of the madness that I've seen over the last few years coming out of COVID is that the market has shifted totally away from buying to leasing. So like in the past, when we started in our real estate career, 20 years ago, everyone bought land and converted it into an HDB, or they used nominee or some other structure to it. Today, 93% of the market is a lease. So it's already in disguise a positive aspect there, in the sense that it will be then retained for generations. I think of where you are, and maybe in the rural areas, they don't understand that yet, and we need to educate them to support that you don't need to sell this. And I think in many cases it's a combination between the farming and parts of the land being used for developments. And I also agree with you that the Perda, or the Bali government regulation from October 2023, which regulates the zoning, has in areas like where you are and where I live, I've run up in the mountains as well, it used to be a footprint of 10% on farming land who is not rice field. Today it's 40, and that to me is the beginning towards the end of these areas, not in the next 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 years, but eventually that will happen. And that's one of the aspects that I think we need to take back to the government to say, there's other ways to preserve, the culture and the nature and the rice fields and everyone. When we talk about today capitalism, stakeholders capitalism, including Elvira's stakeholders as part of that.
Yeah, because then you also, even before you break ground, you work with the communities and not around them. And that is happening at this moment far too much. The communities are not involved anymore. Decisions, investments, or anything is happen in Jakarta and not anymore here locally. For example, I live in Pantai Sese, and there was always the talk about a beach club. It needs to have a beach club, like a beach club and a paddle court and whatever. But then we also had to talk with Banja, and we said, listen, if you're not making it yourself, a big investor will come in, they will invest it, and you will end up being only the waiters. Yeah, so they did. And there is now a beautiful beach club that's called Telasso, and it's Banja owned, Banja run, and all the money stays in there. You know, so everything is changing, but we have to change also.
And look, Guzman, we'll just pass the mic just over here and there. Just before you start, Ben, I think one of the things here which is important is that, you know, symbiosis, collaboration. These hold the key, right, to moving forward, because, you know, like, if I think, and again, and I brought this up too, sorry, I'm not bashing foreigners, you know, but where I was born in London, it's about me. Right? Me, right? We come to Asia, the East, it's about we. So me to we. That is a long journey. For some, longer than others. For me, it's a long journey. Right? Long journey. So when you embrace the we, then you realize that perhaps, again, one opinion, yeah, that it's about knowledge sharing, not teaching. Right? Let me just quickly reinforce that. So, again, I'm not judging, because who am I to judge? When I have friends who come and say, oh, we've got to teach them to do this, we've got to teach them to do that. And me, I'm like, what? Share knowledge. Because, again, it's symbiotic. The things that Bali has given me, it hasn't taught me. Well, I guess in some ways it did, with a little motorbike accident here or there, but it's a knowledge exchange, you know. So again, collaboration is when we get together with unity and diversity, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. So we come together as equals, sharing information and sharing knowledge. So on this particular point, you know, as Elvira just said, what was she doing there with the Banja in Sese? Sharing knowledge, sharing information in such a way that it wasn't coming from high to low. No, it was coming from equal. Hey, here's an idea that might work, and it may lead to this, and this, something you may want to look at. So it's sharing, symbiosis, collaboration, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity and diversity. We work with Bali, not against it. Brother Ben.
Thank you. I really like everything that's been discussed, because I think structure, organisation, and helping the local community rather than just ruthless developers come onto the island, throw money at the locals, don't be vetted, start building developments. My biggest bugbear, I've been here 2.5 years. I first came to Bali in 2008. I've lived in Southeast Asia since 2006, and I've also noticed the changes. Now, everything that you're mentioning to me is a breath of fresh air. In the 70s and 80s in Europe, we were throwing rubbish out of the windows of driving cars. It took us 10-15 years to actually embrace recycling, sustainability, etc., etc. So obviously I understand it's going to take time for that to seep into the local culture and way of doing things, local community, should I say. My biggest bugbear are the developers that have come out here, thrown money, collected loads by selling properties online through, you know, various beautifully curated presentations, and run away either with all of the money and or part built, shells that are still remaining in big parts of the island. Looking at what's happening ahead, I think it's fantastic, but is the government looking at what's currently in place now, where potentially they may have bought 20, 30-year leaseholds or lease of land? They've started the build, they realized they didn't have enough money, took away the money, disappeared. We're never going to see those people brought to justice to start with. But would there be a way of also empowering the local community, because they've sold that land for 25 years, but if the developers disappeared, surely there should be something in place where, well, you've got a time frame. If within 5 years we don't hear from you, that land goes back to the original landowner and is then able to be redeveloped or re-embellished. We've got a prime example at the back of Gado Gado in Seminyak. There's a beautiful little church there. Funds that were put aside for the renewal have magically disappeared, and now the local community have taken that land back. So is something like that being addressed, being discussed with the local communities, governments, to, rather than continue building, use some of the buildings that are already built to embellish and finish off?
That's your department.
Yeah, thank you.
I give my opinion about it.
Yeah,
it's your department.
I think you're right that there is an awful lot of challenges with the wave of foreigners that has come in, and I know myself and Vigor, we've discussed this on WhatsApp on a few occasions too. What do we do with all these discrepancies and abuse of the system? And one of the things that the government says is they want foreign investors, but they want foreign investors who are compliant. One of the things is then on taxes, and everyone looks at, if you go and look at BKPM's number of projects ongoing right now, that might be one bilad, it might be a resort. It's 25,000 registered projects in the system. But when you then look at the actual realization of investment, it's ridiculously low and doesn't make sense. So this is one of the aspects that gets debated back and forth, and how we can support the government to make sure that happens. One of the suggestions, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but one of the biggest discrepancies I see is that since the days of nominee, which obviously got flushed out with the tax amnesty and is totally legal in Indonesia, is that unfortunately quite a few consultants and notaries then looked for the next loophole, which was the lease. And they say that anyone can lease a piece of land and a property, being a tourist, being on a business visa, being on whatever you want. That's not true. So one of the suggestions that we've made in a preliminary, maybe white paper, is to say, why don't you enforce that regulation who is already there? Any lease over 1 year must be registered with BPN. Right away, you're going to get the enforcement of, we're being blessed by the rain, BPN, making sure zoning is happening. If you're a private person, then you only can use it for living in it. You cannot commercialize it. So there's a few things that quite quickly I think we can get to, and then maybe say that any lease backdated 5 years must be registered, and then these problems will appear and we can deal with them. Are we going to run under the roof, or are we just going to sit and get wet?
All right, so what we're going to do, if we grab some umbrellas, everybody here go underneath, and then we'll follow. All right? I think you all should be dry. Oh, you see?
We're blessed.
We've been blessed and then re-blessed.
Exactly.
So yeah, if the Tropical Nomad team have any umbrellas, that will be good, and then we can probably have umbrellas and stay here.
But I think the last part of that also is back to the communal responsibility on these aspects, and I'm going to go under the roof again.
All right, so we're going to turn the lights around. Woo-hoo. So stay online. I'm loving that look over there. This looks beautiful. The light, the way it just drops on your face. Okay, thank you. Yeah, we're just gonna get a few umbrellas here. All right, thank you very much. If you got any more, that'll be great. Yeah, but let's just wait. See. Coming again. All right. Yeah. All right. So this is the beauty about live television. So what we're going to do is that we'll just relocate it, Gus. Put that there. Yeah. That will be excellent. All right. So let's see.
What do you want to do with the mic?
The cables will extend. Yes. So bear with us for a second, folks. Yes. Okay. All right. So you just keep on holding those mics.
Okay.
Wait.
All right. Slide this guy. Here's a terrier. Grab a seat here.
Use your mic because it's wireless. No, like you.
We're being tested and blessed. Yeah, it's okay. All right. I reckon we'll do it here on Instagram Live. Yeah. Yeah. So if we bring the Instagram Live camera over here. Yeah, a possibility. Yep. So we'll bring the live camera over there. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Because I think we're gonna be back in our place in a second. All right. So in a minute, I think we're gonna go back to where we started. Let's see what happens. All right. Yes, I believe it will. All right. 1 second, folks. Okay. So that speaker will be picked up by this, yeah. We'll work that out. So for now, if we get a mic to these guys and they can continue. You have one? All right.
We have this one and it works.
Beautiful. All right, everyone can hear? Yeah. Great. All right. So, no, we carry on. So where were we in the discussion? You can carry on and I'll work out this side.
I think we would be ready for a next question.
Next question.
Robert.
You can sit down next to them. It's fine. Yeah. You just sit. Yeah, sit down. Yep. Go for it. Ask a question.
Okay. May I share the comments about Elvira and Ben and also Mario? Yeah, I agree with Elvira that in these last few years, too many developments are not connected with Balinese Trihita Karana. Too many concrete, too many cement. Please remember, we are in Bali. We are not in Middle East. Okay, so even if we see that many developers, they build not proper buildings. They don't have proper parking space. They don't care about their parking space. They don't have KDB, ruang hijau terbuka, no garden at all, just 1 square meter at the corner, the garden. So also about Mario, thanks Mario for your heart for us, we are local people. I'm Indonesian. I have been in Bali since 1986, so 39 years already in Bali, permanently living in Bali. So we are local. Actually, we are watching about the developments, especially developments by foreigners. in these last few years after COVID, if I can remember around these last 3 years, a lot of foreigners development, new foreigners developers. Yeah. So about the land, leasehold or freehold. So this one also become a topic for us as the local people. So I talk with the local, I talk with the government also, with Kadin, yeah, about this. We are the local. After COVID, most of us are still suffer. We are in recovery period. The people, the local people, they had to lease the land or sell the land, not because they want. They have to. Okay, so in my experience in these last few years, I have been 6 years in Bali, in Brawa, since 2019. I built one joglo, then I live there. So I'm in the central of one of the hottest area, Brawa. For 6 years, many people came to me. They would like to lease my land or to buy my land. So mostly the people come, they say, hey, Figure, I want to lease your land. Okay, how many years? 30 years. How about the payment? Can I pay you every 5 years? What? It means you lease 5 years. Another one came to me, Figure, I want to lease your land. Can I pay you every year? The most polite guests, they came to me, Figure, I want to lease your land. How about the payment? Can I pay you within 2 years? I give you deposit, down payment 20%, another 6 months, 20%, another 12 months, 20%, 18 months, 20%, 24 months, 20%. My question is this kind of term of payment benefits useful for the landlord? For sure, no. This money will go in the kitchen, even in the toilet, sorry to say. Okay, meanwhile, the guests who lease the land 30 years, they make money for 30 years. So actually, we have to create something ecosystem. We are welcome for the foreigners investors, but how we also give the benefits for the local landlord, for the Bali nature, for the government. Yeah, so that is the situation right now. To be honest, yeah. So actually now the government planning to make a new regulation. Yeah. Let's see the Instagram, let's see the social media, sorry to say the brand. Yeah, the social media. Can we realize, can we understand how many foreigners developers, how many local developers on social media? Actually, we are the local people. We are watching. We know about this situation.
Thank you, Brother Bigo.
We are crying inside. We are crying. 3 months ago, I think, we had a coffee morning with Vice President, Mr. Gibran, and the Governor, Mr. Koster. And I said, actually, we miss the old bule, 1990s kind of bule, like Elvira, Terhe, Mario. If we can understand, the newcomers now completely different with them. who came to Bali 1990s. Different heart, different mindset. They have heart, they have feeling. They love Bali. They love the local. They love the nature. They want to keep Bali as beauty as Bali. Not these last 3 years. Too many, sorry to say, I'm sorry. Too many foreigners, developers destroy Bali. So that's why we know one word: concrete forest.
Brother Vigo.
So I hope, I
Thank you.
talk with
Robert.
Mr. Robert, with Terhe, with Elvira, with everybody here. So let's bring Bali back. The beauty, the nature, the ecosystem. Welcome to invest in Bali, but with heart. How you give the benefits for the local people.
Round of applause. Thank you, Brother Vigo. Thank you. So now what I'd like to do is bring in Kim. Yeah, coming in. Yeah. So look, I mean, this is obviously one of the challenges that we face here in Bali, and part of Bali Tourism and Investment Chamber is also to hear these challenges from locals and balance that out. And this time it is education for foreign investors like you watching and people sitting here. So look, Terry, just before we go to Kim's question, and then we're probably going to move back to our original spot after that, is there anything that you, either of you, would care to add to that?
Yeah, I think the overwhelming number of developments we have seen and we keep seeing is something that has taken the government by surprise. And I agree with Vigor that these are many developers who have no idea what they're doing, in the sense that they don't understand construction. They try to look at how they can circumvent tax regulations. They expose themselves as a UMKM, or in English, an SMEs, and they use land that they shouldn't use. At the same time, too, there are difficulties and issues among consultants, among notaries, and among the government itself on how to address this and enforce it. But I think one of the aspects that came out of our gathering on Thursday was the provincial guy, and deliberately we had central and provincial because there are often discrepancies in between what they see and not. But one of the interesting aspects from Pasukra, who heads PKPM province, is that they know already what's going on. They have all the data. They know there are 6,000-7,000 illegal operations, not just in terms of how they don't have an Airbnb, they don't have a build permit, and so on. He was very specific on how he talked us through. One aspect was then they haven't even met the targets of developments that they want, but he broke down the figures between what we would call FDI, so foreign direct investment, and DDI, which is domestic direct investment. And then he looked at some of these areas that they've had, ongoing studies into, and he had clear pictures on what the percentage was of foreigners operating illegally. So they already know, and they're already taking actions with the different teams that we see. Funnily enough, one of them is called the TRAP team, which is from the provincial DPR, and then Pasukra himself and his team, and then the regencies as different teams. So all of this is being dealt with. Maybe it should have happened faster, maybe it should have come earlier, but it's definitely an ongoing process, and I'm quite optimistic that over the next 6 to 12 months, everyone is going to understand that if you want to do business here, you must follow regulation, and you must do what you have to do to set up your company, to be in compliance. This was also one of the aspects that was addressed by the Minister of Tourism. Without the right KBLI in terms of short-term rental and registration with the Minister of Tourism, you're illegal. You're not allowed to operate. So they're very much aware, and I think it'll change forward. So thank you for that input. I agree very much, but I think also we will see a change. Thank you.
Kim, your question, and then we'll move back. Maybe we can go into we can move back.
Yeah, okay, great.
All right. Thank you.
And with having said that, Terje, so correctly, again, the Bali Tourism Investment Chamber is very willing to gap those bridges.
Thanks.
Yeah, because there's a lot of frustration by the investors, but there's also a lot of frustration with the locals. Don't forget that. Yeah.
While we're waiting for the next, just one add-on too. So, like again, the provincial BTIC, and I know you all of you here obviously comply with every regulation, so you don't have this challenge. But BTIC and the sort of quarterly investment report, one of the requests from Pasukra, who heads that department, says, can we do workshops with the foreigners? Can you get them into my office so we can teach them exactly what we want them to do? And we said, yeah, we can do that. And I said, how many can you take in your office? And he said, 20 to 25. But he wants it to be in the office so everyone gets to meet him and his team and so on. So that may be something that we will do, if not every month, every couple of months forward, that people can get the opportunity to deal with the government directly and figure out what the different regulations and challenges is that they have on their respective projects.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So, Brother Guzman, how are we doing with volume? Everything is okay? All right. So we're about to go to another audience question. So if you're just watching, we just had a bit of a rain blessing, and we temporarily relocated, and we had Vigor. If you're still here, Vigor, thank you very much. But again, we know Vigor well, and we like to listen as well to what's happening here in Bali, not only from a foreign investor standpoint, but a local one. And again, symbiosis, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, Gotong Royong, these all play a role and a part into how we approach and how we solve challenges together. So Kim, over to you. Thank you.
Am I on? Yeah.
Just maybe mic up a little bit, Guzman. Yeah. I need to move the speaker.
Listening to, was it Vigor that was speaking? If there wasn't this many people, I would have burst out into tears, because it is so true. Vera, you mentioned about the Banjar. Back in 2002, when I believed my journey was supposed to start then, the universe had a different way. I was having to sit in front of the Banjar, meet the Banjar, and they had to agree that I was a fit candidate to enter into that space. And what was I going to give that community in return? Am I a respectable person? Am I doing good for the country, for the island? And all that has gone. So thank you for coming together out of your own free will to put a stance for Bali. 1993 to now is completely different, but 1993 to now, there is still so much of Bali that even today, I was turning a corner and there was a ceremony in the middle of the road, and you smell that incense. We can't let that go. There's a lot of people responsible for these developments. Architects are responsible, number one, as well as the developers, permit officers, and letting people know exactly what they need to do and what are the ratios and so forth. So maybe an advisory board of respectable developers can donate their time and participate and help BTIC be a go-to person that they can start to bring this in place, because soon enough, if we all come together, you would not want to do the right thing for Bali. And I think we need to switch it now. Yes. Where is the water in your property? Where is the open air in your property? Where is the green in your property? Where is the ceiling? Where is this? We've got modern kitchens. There's no modern kitchens in a Bali architecture. We need to have, be responsible. So, like an advisory board could be great as well. And then there's someone they can chat to, and because we had this on Thursday, who do we contact, and there was no point of contact. So maybe us as developers in return are giving our time for that.
Great suggestion. We're going to pass the mic just over. Oh, behind you. Sorry, the nearest one, and then we'll come to you, my dear. So, just want to reinforce a few things. So, number one, so Bali Tourism and Investment Chamber. There are many different areas of investment, right? Real estate is one. There are many others. On Thursday, one of the BKPM ministers' advisors, staff team, also brought up, in each particular, or I think he chose about 7 or 8 regions in Bali, and said in each one what is required. Just an example. And this was from farming all the way through, and none of them were real estate. Okay, I know some people here might just think this is all about real estate. Real estate is obviously a huge contributor, but there are other areas. And part of, again, what the future plan, the future roadmap is then how do we also, for foreign investors coming in, how do we also pinpoint what opportunities are available where, for which sectors? Right, is one. Another progressive idea that was put forward was one thing of a kind of playbook. So if I'm coming in a particular sector, what is it that I have to do to comply, right? So what's the playbook? Which again, because things can change a little bit, that playbook will probably be updated a few times. But again, it starts to give a framework, which it already is, but starts to add more highlight, more spotlight to the particular framework that is successful for the particular market, in the particular industry, in the particular area. And this also includes investments, we've spoken before with other guests, into things like Balinese owned, hotels is one, guest houses is another, which through that guest house is an insight for a foreigner to see how a Balinese family lives, for example, which can be there for anything for 2 nights, 3 nights a week, and you literally are living in the same kind of compound with, again, Bali has only living culture, or one of the only living cultures left in the world. So every day there are offerings, every day there's ceremony. So for a person coming from outside of Indonesia into, this is something, again, which is a cultural immersion. Yeah, which again, we learn so much from each other. Symbiosis, collaboration, Bonnick. Brother Detlev, over to you.
May I add investment in sustainability solutions? For example, we're an island nation, 17,000 islands, surrounded by ocean, seaweed, the new solution for packaging industry. That is something that can be invested in. Farming, we import rice. The farming should become sexy again. The young people should be involved again. That are all investment opportunity. It's not only property and villas. That's what I want to say.
Well, but there are still so many people on Instagram, etc. They promise a 35% return of invest. All these bullshit. Hey, that was amazing from Igor what we heard there. But I miss one little detail. I think Ibu Kiki spoke about this at the event, and this is in the moment, and this is a tragedy, and we should think about that. Who is one of the victims of this development right now are the beautiful hotels in Bali. And this is terrible. A hotel what suffer now such a low occupancy because of all these bullshit shoe boxes what want to be built, and since the shoe boxes have a competition like crazy, the daily rates going every month lower. And the sad thing that these beautiful hotels, because we came here and we stayed in these beautiful hotels and we fell in love with Bali because of the friendliness and so many people in the hotel as staff. And this is in danger. And well, and yeah, terrible. And let's say, but also what I did not hear yet is, what I want to hear is actually the angle of a tourist coming to Bali, what he want to see and what he want to have. And for sure, he does not want to have Ibiza-style shitty shoeboxes with so stupid flat roofs. I mean, who the hell comes to Bali with a little bit of brain and build a flat roof in this country? I mean, how stupid this is. Yeah.
I think what you wanted to hear is what we said, or what I ended the speech with, that I said, if we do not put sustainability and nature as a stakeholder, we will be invested in a version of Bali that doesn't exist anymore.
Detlef, thank you.
Maybe I can add
Yeah.
on a little bit to that. I fully agree with the frustration that we hear from many of us that the shoeboxes is not good from many perspectives. Vigor addressed some, you addressed some. A flat roof is actually not legal in Bali, so that's another aspect to it. But I want to arrest a little bit the perception that hotels are empty. They're not. Factual figure shows that most hotels have better occupancy, better room rates every year coming out of COVID, and already up to or beyond pre-COVID rates. Now that raises other questions. The growth of the market today, I think it is about 14% compared to last year. And when you add up those figures and the need of rooms, you see that there is not an issue with that. If you talk to hotel owners around, except for a few, the maybe 2 or 3 star that has no soul and is shoeboxes, they're struggling. But any hotel with a bit of genuinity and traction to it is doing well.
Okay, so look, I think we had one more question and we'll begin to wrap it up for tonight. Just before we get there, just to give you a bit of the insight. So remember, after this, the rain is gone, we'll have a photo together just over here. So I will invite you all to come and enjoy and be a part of this moment. And again, I just want to thank all of you for coming and also being blessed in the middle of our episode. That was fun. Thank you, Mother Bali. So any other questions? Remember, on a second, Mario. So this is what this QR code is for, right? So on Thursday, we also went pretty late. And that shows the passion and the drive of people. They want the information and they care about Bali, and that's really the whole point. This is what it only takes a tipping point. It takes a nucleus of people with enough love and care and respect that creates the ripple effect that everyone will copy. So as you would have seen, the Mediterranean thing went through. I like Mediterranean style, maybe in Mediterranean countries. But in the same way, those who build sustainably, what Elvira's talking about, what you're talking about, Kim, and many people here, once people see that this is not only a viable, but the ROI is even higher, and you're also preserving Bali, I feel and believe that people not only inspire people, but people also copy people. So then we have that. So our job really is to create that, or to bring together that nucleus, because there are enough disparate groups which are talking about the same thing, but there isn't a place for them to come together and make action together. Together we are stronger. Right? So this is also what this is very much about. And I just really appreciate you, Detlev, and everyone else, Kim, Mark, who's also Mario, who's asked questions, but mainly tonight there have been more statements than questions, but it's okay lah. All right, we have 1 or 2 more questions here. So Guzman, Brother Guz, if we take the microphone here, and also, can we bring the other microphone for Terrier? Guzman, you want to get it? Yeah, this mic, yes. And I'm going to give this one back to Elvira.
Yeah, because it's funny, I'm here for the first time and I hear all the frustrations, but also the passion, to work together and to make something of it. So I really love that, appreciate it. One thing that I heard in the beginning, or you're talking about Thursday and the ministry that was there, and I was actually surprised that there was so much change or a different way of communication. And I was wondering, because that's only about the things that I heard, that people it's not in Jakarta anymore, so Bali doesn't have the sovereignty to have these communication with what is happening here. I am wondering, what do you think about this, and how can we switch that back again with the government that's now it feels a bit like on the side of really hearing and understanding, or trying to understand what is happening on Bali. So my question actually is, how are we going to change that? Because I would be very much interested in that.
I think there is a lot of challenges to that question. In what we maybe mentioned a bit earlier on discrepancies and confusion and resistance in between maybe central government and province, which is not a new thing. I have a few views on that may not be mainstream, but I think one of the biggest problems that we have is actually the government here and where they came from, and their lack of political will or political understanding to do the right thing, and why Central is pulling this away, not just for Bali, but every province, and saying we need to make this regulation and enforce them back onto you.
Yeah.
So, for instance, with the debate that goes on with OSS system and the speed of investment that the government wants, that is pros and cons, and there is an awful lot of, when we talk about the KBLIs, there's 1,500 of them, probably way too many, that becomes a problem because PKPM then drowns that into the OSS system on all of the regencies. And in here, you then need what we would call a per-BUP. So a Bupati needs to have a particular regulation to regulate what has been enforced from Central to do. That takes time, and that creates issues. But in general, what I've said on a few occasions when people talk about the OSS, and there are politicians both in the government and on the DPRD and so on that screams and shouts to me a lot of noise and lack of content to that, or real tangible input. The OSS system and where you get permits to do different things is again based on the zoning map that Bali created by themselves up to 2023, October 2023. That was knocked into a provincial regulation, and that went from the Banjar to the village, to the Chamat, to the Bupatis, and to the province, and to the central government. So there shouldn't be too much of discrepancies, but it's become a lot of noise among politicians, noise among Balinese, and noise among us and expats, and where we should do and not. So to me, education, understanding of what the regulation actually says and not, and the discrepancies and the confusion of what we may have addressed earlier is that some elements within the central government sees a new Hong Kong here, some does not. How can we impact the right view towards the tourism of Bali? There is maybe it's passed away now, but a Norwegian that wrote a book who is called Where Should We Travel Before It's Too Late, and it deals with that issue on how tourism destroys cultures.
Yeah.
And one of his chapters is about Bali, but he concludes that chapter with Bali is retaining their culture stronger than anywhere else in the world, and we need to encourage that and embrace that and make the central and provincial understand that this is your traction for the foreseeable future, not the shoeboxes that Detlef talks about or Vigor and others.
Thank you.
No, I just want to say here. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Okay, Naya, you got the microphone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I love what you said, Robert, earlier about creating a framework And I hear many of us, or some of us, are new to Bali. So I think those that wanted to come today wanted to come so we can learn how to do things the right way, ways that really align and respect the Bali culture. And we love Bali because of Bali's culture. So the last thing I think most people want to do is come here and see it go away. So I'm thinking, like, what are 3 things that, new investors, new business owners, when they get here, what are at least 3 things we can do to make sure we are doing things right? Because you don't know what you don't know. I hear multiple people say the Banjar. Like, is that like a first step that you get to know your local Banjar? You talk to them about what you're doing, when is the right time, and what else should we do? And then my other question is for the government. It sounds like there's a lot of shifts happening. What would you say are their 3 biggest priorities? Because there are things that seem like they change quickly. So it feels like it can be very confusing if you're new here, because it doesn't seem like it's super solid in terms of how you navigate.
So let me just quickly chime in. So I really appreciate the question, and thank you, my darling, for expressing and communicating that feeling that I felt the first time when I got here. And I ask an opinion over here, I get one opinion. I ask another opinion, I get another opinion. I go for the third one thinking that they're going to agree with one or the other, and it's a third completely new different opinion, and I'm completely lost. So this playbook is really important. One of the things which I would say is that I wouldn't necessarily, I know 3 is a nice number, it's also my favorite number 2, but I think if we take the 3 out of it, let's go Terrier. So her first question was, what are the starting points that, again, she expressed that I'm here, I want to do things right, and what are the starting points for someone like that who's new to Bali?
Well, I think you answered it. Talk to people, but talk to reliable people. I many years wrote a blog, and I keep repeating that blog, and it says that the best way to find good advice in Bali is to go to the closest pub and listen to the most vocal person in there as the oracle of what goes on in Bali. He will talk about real estate. He just doesn't own any real estate. And he will talk about how to circumvent taxes. He himself doesn't pay any taxes. The misinformation. Where do you find real information? I think that's where we try to come together as a group, and we want everyone to be part of that. We have quite substantial ambitions in the sense that what Robert talked about, there is a main board, but there may be as many as 11 or 12 sub-boards to cover every business that we can think of. Real estate, hospitality is obvious, but like you mentioned, there's many others. And then have a clear playbook on what each of these possibilities implements and what you need to do to follow them. But again, back to us, and what Robert says a lot is the community. We need to take responsibility together. We need to support the government, both provincial and central, and draw the line and say enough. There's been 3, 4, 5 years of less responsible developments, and it's an absolute mess when you look at zoning regulations, how they're not being enforced, but that is coming, like I said before when I answered some of the comments from Vigor. But I think, educate yourself really well before you jump into it, and don't take we have this, you can go to 3 consultants and you probably get 6 different answers on your actual question. It's very difficult, but there are sources who will show you the path and explain to you. And the takeaway maybe from Thursday on the PP28 is that it says don't start with buying the land and then come to us or other consultants to figure out what you can do. Start with your business plan, proper, what is it that I'm going to do? Set up your company, and then you look at suitable land from a zoning perspective, and you invest in it, and you get your permits from there. Then you have probably no problems. But what we see now is just an awful lot of, gado-gado or whatever we want to call it in Indonesian. It's very difficult and tremendously challenging for the government to get some clarity on how to fix this. So that's where we can come together and give input.
And I would like to add, once you find that spot, once you have that zoning, go and sit on it and do not only look into the legal issues, but also look to nature as an authority. Yeah, what impact will your operation have on the water and on the landscaping and on the community that lives there? Yeah, that I think very good two starting points.
You know, look, what we're going to do is that we're going to wrap up now. Now, there will be a photo, so we'll grab the people that got rain blessed over here as well, and we'll do a photo together. So just to reiterate some of the points from tonight, which are important. So probably number one, if you haven't joined, join, right? So just scan the QR code, fill out your details. That would be not number one. Minor Canggu moment. And then number two is, you know, be in harmony with Bali, right? So we gave some clues there. Now, we spoke about Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, the motto of Indonesia, unity and diversity. We spoke about Gotong Royong, community coming together to solve a challenge faced by the community. We spoke about right here in Bali, Tri Hita Karana, you know, this relationship between human to God, human to nature, and human to human, prosperity, dignity. You know, so by aligning yourself, okay, and by taking the time to understand the ground on which you stand, you will be in a much better position to truly understand what is required, what is needed, and how to go about it. Right? And in the meantime, as Terry spoke about, as Elvira spoke about, there's different aspects to this, but the idea is to create different frameworks or playbooks. So therefore, you know, we're able to see and navigate with care this legislatory environment. Okay, we've spoken about, you know, this opportunity to have an impact on things you can impact, right? So we spoke about progressive policy ideas, and tonight we've had some really great examples, you know, of what we would like to see. Right, so remember, BTIC is about that as well. It's a bridge to government, right, and also the other way around. So how a government can socialize to us, entrepreneurs, foreign investors, and locals, on what is happening. But most of all, it's how do we come together, work together for a sustainable future here in Bali. This is really the key. All right, so I just want to thank everybody, Brother Guzman for being, round of applause please for Guzman, single-handed. Round of applause for yourselves. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate your presence. Woo! And of course, a round of applause for our guests.
And for you.
You know, next week we have Ayu Sudana. Now, Ayu Sudana, for those who don't know, Balinese, a powerful woman in business here in Bali, a powerful entrepreneur, beautiful person, and she's fire, right? So next week we're going to learn about a bit about her history, her life story, which is a phenomenal one, and what she's doing to take Balinese women forward in Bali and breaking trends and breaking molds. So that will be another very powerful episode. Look forward to seeing you in. A round of applause. Thank you very much.